So year sevens, last lesson, we looked at the character of Scrooge in A Christmas Carol. We looked at the way that Charles Dickens described him using lots of adjectives, a few similes, lots of images of coldness to get across what a mean, selfish, nasty man Scrooge was. With that knowledge of that character in your minds now, I'd like you to do a piece of writing about him called Scrooge Goes Shopping. So we know that he's mean, we know that he's tight fisted or not really wanting to spend much money. And I'd like you to think about what he would be like if he was going shopping. Now, obviously, this is set in Victorian times, so I want you to try and base yours in Victorian times as well. We're not going to have Scrooge going to Tesco or Aldi. It will probably be market stalls and old fashioned shops where he might be going shopping, where he might be haggling, so arguing with shopkeepers or market stall holders about perhaps how much money he thought things were worth. Let's have a look at what we need to do then. Firstly, I want you to think about the clothes that he'd wear. Now, Scrooge was a businessman, but we know that he doesn't like parting with his money, he doesn't like spending money. So his clothes might have once looked quite smart, but now look quite threadbare. And I want you to also come up with adjectives that you might use to describe him. Think about the sorts of adjectives that Charles Dickens used, lots that link him with the cold. You might use some of those too. So the clothes that he might wear, a great coat, that's sort of like they're quite long, heavy, thick woolen coats. He might have a scarf on, perhaps that's seen better days. It's gone quite thin, but he wraps it round his frosty rhyme upon his chin. Fingerless gloves, perhaps. It might be that the great coat is a bit threadbare. We've used that word already, so gone very thin, falling to pieces. Thin, shabby trousers, perhaps. Some adjectives you might use to describe him. You might think about different ones to these. It might be greasy or stained. Certainly, I think he would be moaning and grumbling, and people might describe him as nasty, sneering, unpleasant. Miserly means being very tight with his money, not wanting to spend money. Gaunt means very thin, and miserable. So some of those words you might have chosen yourself. You might want to add to that list. You might not like some of them. You don't have to use all of them. So the plan for this then, you're going to set your work out into 4 paragraphs. So the first paragraph is going to be about Scrooge getting ready to go out, locking up his house. It might be a big old key that he's using. Perhaps the door has also seen better days. It might be a bit creaky on the hinges. In the second paragraph, you're going to have him walking through the streets. Imagine how he's going to react to other people. If somebody says to him, "Oh, good morning, Mr. Scrooge," is he going to say to them, "Oh, good morning, how are you?" Or is he going to moan and grumble a bit under his breath and not really want to say anything or be kind to people? Think about how you want to get across Scrooge's personality through the way that he behaves. Paragraph 3 is going to be at the outdoor market or the shops. He might be buying a penny loaf. He might be going for the rotten, cheap vegetables that are perhaps have seen better days, but they're cheaper. So that might be what he'd rather have. And then returning home. You could start like this. Scrooge shivered and heaved himself up out of his warm, shabby armchair and started to get ready to go out. So the first thing you're going to need to do is to make notes about what's going to happen in each section of your story. We've got those 3 sections there, the 4 sections there again. Make sure you do plan it. The reason that people struggle with doing any sort of creative or story writing is if you've not planned what's going to happen, and you'll get part way through it and then think, I don't know what to write next. You won't know what to write next because you haven't planned what to write next. So plan what's going into each of those paragraphs. It doesn't need to be a massively detailed plan, but just some notes so you know what's going to happen in each of them. And then let's see if we can really bring this character of Scrooge to life and have him walking through the Victorian streets of London, moaning, grumbling, going out when perhaps he doesn't want to go out, and spending any of his precious money, and then back home again. As always, I would love to see what you write here. I think you're going to do some fantastic pieces of work. So email them to me or put them on folder. That would be absolutely wonderful. You should probably give yourself about half an hour. You might need a little bit longer than that. See how you get on. Off you go.